I had one of my favorite models into the studio recently, the beautiful Sandra. The reason I called her in was because I am working on a new e-lookbook and I wanted some new and exciting photos for it. And because I had some great ideas for some shots in the bathtub. And I wanted to be able to really concentrate on the workings behind the camera rather than both behind and in front of the camera. We started out in the studio. I have told you guys before that I like to bring models into the studio before I do anything else with them for a sort of get to know you period. And even though Sandra and I have worked together a few times, I still like starting out in the studio. I feel like it loosens everyone up and, we get some updated headshots for their portfolio. It's a win-win situation. For Sandra, we did some closely cropped portraits, a few with more even lighting and a few with more shadow. They were all really natural looking though. In our email discussions prior to the shoot, I had told her to wear something very simple because I didn't want any clothes or a bunch of makeup distracting from her face. She's just plain pretty, and I wanted to focus on that. Then we moved to the bathtub. This is where the fun really started. I wanted to use my claw-footed tub and have Sandra look like she was just relaxing in the bathtub. Now, the bathtub is tricky for a few different reasons. One, we wanted implied nudity, not nude nudity, so we had to be creative about covering up all of her bits. Two, I didn't want Sandra sitting in the water for too long. The bath might start out nice and warm, but end up just being tepid and uncomfortable before too long. And three, it's in the bathroom, so I had to get creative about the angles of the photos. Let's talk about how I dealt with each of those three things. Number one, implied nudity. I've talked to you guys before about implied nudity. It's where the subject looks as though they might be nude, but they aren't necessarily. In this case, Sandra was wearing a bathing suit. That's always the easiest answer. Have your subject just wear something skimpy and shoot around it. But I also used a couple other things to obscure Sandra's bod. One was the bathtub itself. I shot at angles where the bathtub blocked her from the chest down. The other thing I used was bubbles. I used a copious amount of bubble bath so that I could shoot down into the tub without seeing Sandra's bikini. Number two, limiting Sandra's time sitting in the bath water. I did this by starting out shooting without any water in the tub at all. I just got done telling you guys about how I used the bathtub to block the parts that we didn't want showing. That meant that we didn't need water for a bunch of the shots. We just did those shots first. That also allowed Sandra to kind of get comfortable and try out a few different positions within the tub itself without, sloshing and slipping around in the water. Number three, shooting around reality, the fact that we were actually in a bathroom. For this one, I planned out different angles that I would be able to shoot before Sandra even got there. I shot low, I shot high, I shot vertical, I shot horizontal, and I moved around as much as I could. I crouched in corners and climbed on ladders, and when I absolutely had to, I was able to retouch out an electrical outlet or a corner of the countertop or whatever I needed to do. When we were all done, my bathroom smelled like the hibiscus-scented bubble bath, and Sandra was soaking wet. But we had some pretty cool shots. VIPs. You guys log in at snapchick.com to see a whole gallery of images and a video where I go more in depth about camera settings, lighting setups, and photo editing. Everybody else, there is a sample photo up there for you guys.